look, Trump's not a conservative. He's an authoritarian narcissist. So I think they basically called him out for that. He's a populist authoritarian narcissist. So historically speaking, all of his tendencies are, basically where narcissism takes him, which is whatever makes him popular, makes him feel good at any given moment. And he doesn't think in classical liberal conservative terms. He thinks in an authoritarian way. And he's been able to get a big chunk of the Republican base to follow him because, he's the culture warrior.
And that is former Republican House Speaker Paul Ryan trashing Donald Trump. Ryan, who served as Speaker from 2015 to 2019, worked with Donald Trump before Trump became president. Ryan now serves on the board of Fox News' parent company, Fox Corporation. So this attack on Trump is interesting on several levels. Ryan spoke to Teneo Political Risk co-president Kevin Kajiwara. Kajiwara asked Ryan about Republicans Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, whose political careers in the House came to an end after they stood against Trump.
I think Adam and Liz stepped out of the flow and called it out and, paid for it with their careers. But I think, again, back to my earlier point, I don't think you can be really very good at these jobs unless you're willing to lose these jobs. And there has to be some line, some principle that is so important to you that you're just not going to cross, so that when you're brushing your teeth in the morning, you look at yourself in the mirror, you like what you see. I think Adam and Liz are brushing their teeth liking what they see. And I think there are a lot of people in Congress, good friends of mine, who would take the vote back if they could.
By take the vote back, Ryan was referring to the second Trump impeachment related to Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election and block Joe Biden's presidential certification. A week before the end of Trump's term, the Democratic House at the time overwhelmingly voted for Trump's impeachment. A majority of the Senate also went against Trump, but enough Republicans stood with Trump that the Senate did not reach the 2/3 threshold to convict.
I think a lot of these members of Congress, like on the second impeachment, they thought Trump was dead. They thought after January 6th, he wasn't going to have a comeback. He was dead. So they figured, I'm not going to take this heat. I'm going to vote against this impeachment because he's gone anyway. But what's happened is he's been resurrected. There's lots of reasons for that, but he has been. So I think there's a lot of people who already regret not, getting him out of the way when they could have, like an impeachment. So I think history will be kind to those people who saw what was happening and called it out, even though it was at the expense of their personal well-being.
And there are plenty of Republicans, aside from Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, who have paid a political price in the GOP for opposing Donald Trump. Mitt Romney in the Senate, who voted for Trump's impeachment, recently announced he would not seek re-election. Romney was going to face a MAGA primary opponent in Utah. In the House, Michigan Republican Fred Upton, who has served in the House since the late 1980s, voted for Trump's impeachment, saw the political wins afterwards, and decided not to run for re-election in 2022. So Paul Ryan is spot on. The Republican Party has remained firmly in the grips of Trump and the MAGA movement. And nearly every Republican who has opposed Donald Trump has been hurt politically in the GOP. The irony is that several Republicans loathe Donald Trump and will say as much off the record and away from the microphones or cameras. Furthermore, several Republicans who consider themselves to be moderate have privately expressed support for some Democratic legislative priorities, but have then voted against the Democratic bills because they fear getting walloped by MAGA conservatives. It would be refreshing if more Republicans showed some courage and decency, but as we've pointed out before, most GOP lawmakers seem most interested in getting reelected, and that is more important to them than standing for basic principles and integrity. Paul Ryan put it a bit more diplomatically and delicately, which underscores how he managed to climb the ranks and become Republican House Speaker. He is a deft political operator who has long managed to disagree with some colleagues without being disagreeable. Ryan has been on the Fox board of directors since 2019. This has rankled Donald Trump, MAGA supporters, and even some current and former Fox hosts, including Tucker Carlson. They have accused Paul Ryan of meddling behind the scenes to make Fox less supportive of Donald Trump. Ryan's record on pushing Fox away from Trump hasn't gone as well as most of us would have liked, but that's the legacy of Paul Ryan. Nice guy, thoughtful man whose influence has always been mixed. Good for Ryan, though, in speaking out. By the way, diehard MAGA House Republican Ralph Norman from South Carolina just got humiliated by a Democrat in a House hearing.
I would wager a good bit of money. You give him with 5 doctors, they would tell you the man's not there.
Democrat Mary Scanlon of Pennsylvania is there at this hearing, and she's about to torch Norman.
Have you spent any time with Mr. Biden, with the president?
Good God,
Did you go?
no.
Good God, no. No, you've been watching a little too much Fox News.
Check out that video at the link below. I'm David Schuster. Months before the 2024 election, and the evidence is mounting that Donald Trump has gone Looney Tunes. On his Truth social media platform, Trump just posted a dozen unhinged video rants. Many of them have all-cap captions and make claims that are patently false and absurd. Case in point, Donald Trump, a convicted felon, has not been in prison yet. However, Trump thinks otherwise.
I am the political prisoner of a failing nation, but I will soon be free on November 5th, the most important day in the history of our country, and we will together make America great again.
Again? In President Biden's first 3 years, the U.S. economy created 15 million jobs. In Donald Trump's first 3 years, pre-pandemic, it was 6.8 million. Since Biden took office, the stock market has risen by 35% and just set a new record high. And the U.S. violent crime rate has now dropped to its lowest level in 50 years. But speaking of crimes, on top of being convicted for falsifying business records in New York, Donald Trump still faces other trials, including for mishandling of classified documents. And Trump keeps lying about how the FBI conducted the Mar-a-Lago raid.
Crooked Joe Biden's DOJ, in their illegal and unconstitutional raid of Mar-a-Lago, authorized the FBI to use deadly lethal force. Can you believe that? Now we know for sure that Joe Biden is a serious threat to democracy. He is indeed a big threat, not me.
Actually, the FBI Mar-a-Lago search warrant had standard language that restricted every agent's use of force. But Donald Trump and his minions have twisted the boilerplate language to make crazy claims about an assassination attempt. The Trump rhetoric is outrageous and over the top, and it could spark MAGA violence against federal agents. So the courts in Trump's remaining legal cases are now considering new gag orders on Donald Trump. That's right, the courts have already found Trump to be a threat and may declare him an even bigger threat. And all Donald Trump can do is keep projecting and spewing nonsense. And speaking of nonsense, in another True Social video, Donald Trump declared that he alone has the power to get Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich released from a Russian jail. Trump added it will happen if he, Trump, wins the November election.
Evan Gershkovich, the reporter for the Wall Street Journal who is being held by Russia, will be released almost immediately after the election, but definitely before I assume office. He will be home, he will be safe. Vladimir Putin, president of Russia, will do that for me, and I don't believe he'll do it for anyone else, and we will be paying nothing. Biden likes to pay massive numbers. We will be paying nothing.
Trump first made this claim a few weeks ago. At the time, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said the Russian government has not had any contacts with Donald Trump. Peskov added, regarding U.S.-Russian contacts in the matter of incarcerated and convicted individuals, we can say these contacts must be carried out in total secrecy. This is the only way they can be effective. In other words, even if Trump has a special connection with Russia, Trump is not following Russia's instructions on how to try and obtain the reporter's release. However, this gets even worse, because Donald Trump's video is incentivizing Russia's Vladimir Putin to keep Gershkovich prisoner. Also, think of how ridiculous Donald Trump's claim is in terms of U.S. politics. If Trump really had the power to get the reporter released, wouldn't it make more sense for Trump to get the release before the election? That way, Trump would get credit before voters head to the polls. But Donald Trump cannot get the reporter released. Trump is selling snake oil about the election to U.S. voters, and the family and friends of the imprisoned reporter have to suffer even more. Whether Trump is ranting in his Truth Social videos or spewing out all-caps screeds, the rhetoric keeps getting more insane and untethered from reality. And as the summer goes along and the legal and political pressure on Trump keep building, watch out. Trump's nonsense is going to get worse. By the way, one of Donald Trump's fiercest supporters in Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene, just got scolded to her face by Republicans. At the House Oversight Committee, Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene tried to suspend reality.
No, I don't need your answer. I want to talk about this right here.
Mr. Chairman,
Fauci,
objection. Objection.
I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time, Mr. Raskin.
Gentlelady, point of order.
Check out that video at the link below. I'm David Schuster. Thanks for joining us.